Welcome to Focus on the Candidates. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is Andrew Ward, and Andrew is running for the House of Delegates in the state of Virginia. So, Andrew, how's your campaign going?
It's going really well. We're out talking to voters. We're making contacts, and everywhere I go around the district, there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm for having a new voice at the state capitol in Richmond and presenting the ideas that are really important to the folks of the 60th House District here in Virginia.
So, what are those important issues?
Yeah, so I think the biggest things that are really important for the voters here in the 60th district is one, here in the Commonwealth. We've got the best education system in the country, but in order to keep that education system strong, we need to hire and recruit the best talent. And so I, along with Abigail Spanberger, of course, who's running for governor, support increasing teacher pay above the national average, ensuring that every student in the Commonwealth, including here in Central Virginia, has the best schools, the best teachers, and the best technology for which to learn. And so, again, that looks like uh, so, supporting teacher pay above the national average. Our education system here in the Commonwealth of Virginia is $200 million underfunded. So, bringing that funding up to the levels that are required to fully fund all of our public schools here in the Commonwealth. And then along with that is providing the resources to families at home that need it, so that they can support their children's education, providing the broadband that they need, ensuring that every time we have a storm here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we're not losing power and electricity so that our students can go to school. And then at the basic level, really ensuring that every citizen in the Commonwealth of Virginia can live the life that they want to live, free from fear or intimidation, simply because of who they are and who they love. And so those are some of the big issues. Those are the issues that we're supporting, that we're really passionate about. Along with women's reproductive freedom and all of the things that support the working class, and ensuring that people who are working hard every single day to earn a paycheck can continue to live the life that they want to live here in Central Virginia, in what is the greatest state, in my opinion, the greatest state in the union.
So, you say you want to increase spending for schools, correct?
Well, go ahead.
How are you going to do that?
Well, I think the first thing is it's not increasing spending in schools. It's really bringing it's fully funding our public schools. So we have something that's called the Standards of Quality. It's a framework that we have that we fund schools, and that's currently $200 million underfunded. So at the very basic level, we need to take the same resources that we currently have, but put that back into our schools so that we can simply bring our schools up to the standards that we've expected for decades. And so to fully refund that pot of money that we have been promised as educators, to fully fund public schools. We can do that with the current funds that we have in the Commonwealth. We can do that by fully supporting and recommitting ourselves to fully supporting the education system here in the Commonwealth. Glenn Youngkin has cut resources, has cut money from public schools here in Virginia. So by supporting that funding, we can bring the levels back up to where we need to without having to do too much, without having to raise taxes and hurt middle class Virginians.
And so, uh, that's not the only issue you're running on. There's got to be more, right?
There are a ton more. Yes, as a public school educator, that is certainly my main issue. But I think also, ensuring that, for example, one of the main issues that we have here in Central Virginia is growth and the cost of housing, the cost of affordable housing here in Central Virginia. And so part of ensuring that is ensuring that we are supporting legislation that will provide uh, uh, housing for every citizen in the Commonwealth, low and middle income housing. Along with that, though, along with growth, we need to have sustainable growth. We need to have growth that respects and appreciates our heritage here in the Commonwealth, but also understands that growth is important to support the growing needs of our community. And so when we do have that development, when we do have these companies that want to come in and develop the Commonwealth, that we are taking into account our history that is amazing here in Central Virginia. Uh, uh, that we're not destroying public lands, that we're not destroying lands that belong to groups of people who've been in this area for generations, but we're having smart growth, and we're having growth that is sustainable and real, but also supports the ability of middle and low income individuals to find housing to support their families.
So, you you call Virginia a commonwealth and not a state. Can you explain that?
Well, a commonwealth, it's just the title. I believe that there are four commonwealths in the country. A commonwealth is comes from the old term of, when this state was founded. It goes back to sort of English common law. There's really no difference in the way that we run our state versus other states. It's just the title that we call ourselves. We're the Commonwealth of Virginia. It
Okay.
goes, yeah, it goes back to our founding, and being our founding based on English common law.
Okay. So, have you ever run for elected office before?
I have not. This is my first time really running for elected office. I've worked on other campaigns. I've been very active in politics my whole adult life, but this is really the first time that I decided to really run for office myself.
What interests you about politics? What do you like about it?
Well, like I said, I've been involved with politics since the day I turned 18, and I think the thing that really interests me about politics is politics and policy really affect our entire lives. Everything that we do, every aspect of our lives, is affected by some decision that a politician and a policymaker makes, whether that's where I send my son to school, the cost of the groceries and the gas I use to get to work, the roads we drive on, the taxes that we pay for our houses. Everything is affected by decisions who are made by people, and those people run for office. Those people are accountable to us, and so politics, I believe, at its core, can really be a powerful driver in making change. We've seen that throughout the history of the United States, certainly throughout the history of the Commonwealth, that the best way that we can make change is through politics. Dr. King, while he was a civil rights activist, he worked in the political system. He made change to the political system. We see every time that we've had anything change within our Constitution, it's gone through the political process. And so, yes, politics can be a dirty game. Politics can be rough. Politics can be ugly. But politics, and then on the backside of that, policy is a great driver to make change and support the things that we want to get done in the state and in the country.
So, Virginia and New Jersey are the only two states that don't have people running for the state legislature the same time that the other states do. Why is that? Why are you in a different year and New Jersey is in a different year than the other states?
Um, I think it's again that goes back to our history here in the Commonwealth. I think we've always been a leader in elections, and um, we've always wanted to do that so that we can sort of have these focus really on these statewide elections in a time when the other states are not focused on that. I know that's something that we talk about all the time, but we take pride in the fact that here in Virginia we have elections every year, which means that we really are on the front lines of making change throughout the country, and really as Virginia goes, so goes the country. And so here in the Commonwealth, we're very active in politics. We do politics every year. And it's the way we've done it for decades and decades. I do know that there's some conversation happening, um, uh, some hearings that are going on currently at the state legislature to talk about is it worth it to continue to have it at this time, or to bring it into line with the off-year midterm elections that we would have. So those conversations are beginning. um, I think they're having those conversations to see what the feasibility is of doing that at the state level, and changing the way that we currently do it.
How do you feel about that?
Um, I think as somebody who's running in a very off year, I think it can certainly be beneficial to be able to align ourselves with some of the congressional races and federal races that are happening. I do like the fact that here in the Commonwealth and just like in New Jersey, the focus is 100% on the state of Virginia and on the state of New Jersey, and so we get all of the spotlight, we get all of the support. So there are certainly advantages to it. We again get to be the first real barometer every year of how is the national party that's in power doing. Oftentimes, you see if you look at the history of Virginia politics, oftentimes the party that's in power in Washington, especially in the White House, Virginia tends to elect the opposite. Governor, and part of that is because we have our elections, the year after the president, or the year the president is inaugurated. And so again, I think it gives Virginia some power as a state. But it would certainly be nice as somebody who's running for office to be able to coordinate with those state and federal campaigns and kind of, and also it takes some pressure off of folks who are not as involved with politics. They don't necessarily have to hear it every single year. So there's definitely some benefits to having it uh, during either the presidential cycle or the midterms.
So, you is the state legislature, is that a 2 or 4 year term?
So the state House of Delegates is a 2-year term, and the state Senate is a 4-year term. So, and the House of Delegates is elected. So the House of Delegates is elected this year, and then the state House, or the state Senate, I'm sorry, those elections take place in 2027.
Oh, so then, wow. So they get a longer term than ha-
Well,
the
the state Senate,
right?
correct. Yeah, the state Senate is 4 years, and the state House of Delegates is 2 years. So um, we're up every 2 years, and the state Senate is up every 4 years.
Hmm, I see. So how when you go around campaigning, is your message resonating?
Yeah, again, I think it is. I think here in the 60th district, for a long time, we've had really one party and one voice in charge in this area, and I think people are ready for change. People are ready to hear a new voice. People are really ready for um, uh, voices who are willing to support uh, uh, growth and really change that takes into account our history. And so, yes, I do think that people are open to our message. I think the more that we talk to folks, the more that they're starting to realize that there is another option out there besides the one party and the one voice that they've heard for decades here in Hanover and New Kent County.
So how big is your district?
Our district is half of two counties, so it is Hanover County and New Kent County. We have about 70,000 voters in the county, or in the district, and it stretches. I want to say about 50 miles from border to border. So it's a fairly large district. It's a mostly rural district. Parts of where I live in the 60th is suburban, but you get further out towards New Kent, and it becomes more rural. So we're definitely a rural district, but we're about 10 miles from the state capital in Richmond.
So do you like going to the state capitol? You must
Uh,
you want to work there, right?
I do. I very much enjoy being a part of the discussions that are happening at the state legislature, whether that's testifying in front of committees or even just talking to legislatures in their office. I think that as citizens, we're very blessed as citizens of this country that we have the right to be able to do that, and so it's something that I enjoy, being able to go and advocate for those things that I believe in and those things that I really am passionate about. And I would encourage people who have never done that. If there's an issue that you're really passionate about, go to your state legislature, go to your state capital, and really um, testify on those bills, because especially at the state level, that's how you can make a difference, because the state legislature, unlike Congress or the United States Senate, they can be swayed by testimony from individuals. I've seen it happen.
So, do a lot of people in your district commute to DC and work there?
There's a few. I would say that there's not a ton. We have a good number. We're right on. So my district is near Ashland, Virginia, which is a hub for the train that goes to DC. So there are a number of federal workers who work here. I would say that most of the federal workers here that live in this district tend to travel to Richmond and work in Richmond. But I have a number of folks who do commute. It can be quite a haul. We're right on I-95, so as you know, if you've ever driven 95, traffic can be terrible
I've
on that
been
corridor.
there.
So it's hard to it can be challenging to get there by car, but you can take the train up to DC and get there in about 90 minutes or so. So we have a few, but like I said, most of our federal workers tend to work down in Richmond.
Hmm. So, how has your reception been? Are you being embraced by the party?
We are, yeah. The party here in Virginia. One of the things that we're very happy about and take pride in is that the Democratic Party of Virginia is contesting all 100 uh, uh, state House of Delegates seats, and so they have been very happy to embrace those of us who are in the more rural districts and have really supported our race, understanding, of course, that this race is an uphill climb and that we do have a long way to go to win this race. But by contesting all 100 seats, the state party has really committed to you know taking our voice, taking our concerns to the people, and allowing the people to tell us whether or not they support the Democratic message across the Commonwealth.
And how has the press, have they been kind to you, the mainstream media?
So far, I've only had a couple of interviews so far. It's hard. Again, it's hard when you're in a plus 30 Republican district to really break into the media and really kind of get the attention that you want. But I would say, yeah, for the most part, they've been very open to talking to us. They've been very fair in their coverage, and I think are interested in knowing what we're talking about here in the Commonwealth, but really how our message relates to the entire Democratic ticket and the things that we're really working on across the Commonwealth.
So, mm, w- uh, oh my God. In the middle of a sentence, I lost my train of thought. Um, w- if you're elected, what unique qualities will you bring to the seat?
Yeah, so I think I've got a few. One, as a public school teacher, as an educator, I'm somebody who knows how to think on my feet, knows how to solve problems, knows how to work with people who don't necessarily want to be uh, listen to what I'm saying. So I know how to get along with people. I know how to get the job done. I know how to work with folks. I will say the other unique quality that I have is, I am actually a former Republican. I was a Republican for um, about the first 10 to 15 years of my voting career, and so I understand. I don't agree with everything that the Republican Party stands for, but as a former Republican, I can understand their issues and can understand why they're arguing that they are, and can find some common ground with either Republican voters or Republican members of the state legislature, while still holding, the progressive values that we hold dear as Democrats here in the Commonwealth.
What made you decide to switch?
If I'm being honest, the thing that made me switch from the Republican Party was their full embrace of Donald Trump and of MAGA. My joke is that the minute that he came down the escalator, I was out. I couldn't support the policies of a Republican Party that were deciding that they wanted to go all in on some of the policies that Trump was supporting, specifically around immigration. When he goes down in his first press conference, it's calling Mexicans thugs and rapists. I've grown up my whole life around immigrants, specifically Latino immigrants, and I can tell you that they're some of the greatest people in the world. And so that type of language, his immigration policy, his stances on Israel and Gaza, his stances on foreign policy, on tariffs, all of those things are really antithesis to what it means to be a Republican. But unfortunately, the Republican Party has fully bought into that. And so as a former Republican, I said, I need to leave the party and join the big tent that is the Democratic Party.
So you decided the day that he went down the escalator.
Well, I had been I had as somebody who had been involved with politics for a while, I had been seeing the party switching and had felt some things were happening within the party, and had seen some of those things happen. But really, the time that they fully embraced him, I shouldn't say the day. That's not fully accurate, but within that process, within the process of that primary in 2015, 2016. I wanted to obviously give some of the other folks a chance. Secretary Rubio at the time was running for president and seemed like he was going to be a decent candidate. The former governor of Ohio was running. Some different folks were running, and at that time I was thinking maybe maybe these folks would be elected. Maybe the Republican Party would turn against kind of some of the things that I vehemently disagreed with, but they didn't, and they nominated him in 2016. And I said at that point, my morals and values didn't match the party, and so therefore I couldn't in my right mind stay in the Republican Party at that point.
So, past the present, who is the political figure you most admire?
So the political figure that I most admire in my life and my political hero is actually John McCain. I had the honor in 2008 of working very low. I was very low in the campaign, but I worked in that election cycle for Senator McCain. I consider Senator McCain a personal hero of mine because he was his own individual. He was a Republican, but you couldn't tell Senator McCain what to do. Senator McCain really did what Senator McCain felt was best for him, for the people of Arizona, and for the country. And so the sacrifices that he made as a war hero, the sacrifices that he made as a leader in this country really made him a personal hero of mine. And then as I think kind of longer term throughout history, I think of folks like obviously Abraham Lincoln and the courage that he had to bring a group of rivals together, a group of folks that he vehemently disagreed with during the campaign, but brought them together to solve solutions and really saved our country. And then, of course, you have folks throughout history who were not elected, but were heroes. I've mentioned Dr. King, Rosa Parks, these other civil rights leaders, John Lewis, and other folks who really put their lives on the line and put their personal safety on the line for something that they believed in. And I think that's what's, again, so great about our country and about being an American, is that we have the right to do that, but we also don't have to do that because of the folks that did that for us.
So, if your fairy godmother came down and offered you her magic wand and said today, you have one wish to make this world a better place, what would that wish be?
Oh, wow. One wish to make this world a better place. I think, honestly, I think if we could all live our lives with more empathy, I think that would make this world a better place. Not sympathy, but empathy. I think part of the problem that we have in politics, part of the problem that we have in society is we think that everybody is the enemy, right? We think that everybody is, if you're a Republican, the Democrat's the enemy. If you're the Democrats, Republicans are the enemy. You're a Democrat, so you can't understand what I'm going through. If you're a Republican, so you can't understand what I'm going through. If we had just a little more empathy, I think that we could really solve a lot of our problems, and we could really understand each other at a basic level. And so we have a lot of big problems in this world, and a lot of things that that I wish we could solve with the magic wand. But if we could have a little more empathy, and really understand where everybody's coming from, I think that we could all realize that we really agree on 70 or 80% of issues, and we could talk through those 20 or 30% that we don't agree on.
So, Andrew, thank you for being on Focus on the Candidates.
Of course.
I have one request, and
Sure.
that's for everybody who's listening to this, including yourself, to mark on your calendars August 1st. August 1st is Candidate Recognition, National Candidate Recognition Day. It's one day set aside to honor candidates who have thrown their hat into the ring. People don't understand the sacrifices that candidates make to make change in their form of government. So, um, July 4th is the 250th birthday of this country.
It is.
August 1st, I want everybody to celebrate all those who have worked to ensure that we have 250 years of birthdays for America. So,
Indeed.
National Candidate Recognition Day. So, you've been listening to Andrew Ward, who's running for the.
Virginia House of Delegates in the
Thank
60th
you.
district.
Thank you. I'm
You're very
Cynthia.
welcome.
I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Focus on the Candidates. If you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a wonderful day.